Your own signs.
Where are you from?
River Falls.
And walk.
All right.
Your name and
I'm Bob.
what are you doing?
I'm just hanging out in support of our governor, Walker.
Why are you supporting?
Well, because I'm in support of balanced budgets, and I do not believe that public employee unions are for the good of the taxpayer.
You are in agreement with everything he's done?
I wouldn't say that. I don't know the full body of everything he's done. But
Most of what he's done?
yeah, I think that I voted for him to do the things that he's doing, so I'm in agreement with generally and principally.
Where are you from, sir?
I live here in Hudson.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
They have special protections that other workers don't.
Ma'am, would you mind talking to me?
I don't know. What do you have to say?
I'm with the Uptake in Minneapolis. Why are you here?
Well, I just think this is important for our state. So I take my time to stand here and just let Scott know that we're on his side. Why many of us can't be here, but the few that are supporting him. And
Why are you supporting him?
he's just doing what Wisconsin needs. I mean, we need to cut somewhere, and
So you think
everybody's
the
hurting,
state
and
really had, and the governor
I
had
think
no choice.
the unions
Get a grip on the budget.
are taking over, and we've seen a lot of things come out of them this
his
week.
attitude on unions?
Totally.
Okay.
I think the way they're showing their strong arm this last few weeks is showing their true colors. They're boycotting businesses, boycotting. It's just not right.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think voters for Scott Walker, and we're going to get this bill to work, and it's going to go through. It should go through. This is what democracy is.
You bet.
You mind telling me why?
Why are you asking?
I'm with the Uptake, an internet media service.
What's the update? I don't know what it is.
We broadcast on the internet.
Well, what's your political affiliation?
We're not politically affiliated.
Well,
Citizen journalists.
I'll tell you that I support some of the ideas that progressives have had in the past, important ones like Franklin Roosevelt, who felt that government employees shouldn't be unionized because of the conflict, and Jimmy Carter of recent times, who refused to extend government recognition to unions. And I think what applies at the federal level applies at the state level as well, or any level, where there's a continuous cycle of money contributions to legislators, who then are the only people who vote on the contracts that the people who made the contributions. And I think that there's something a little bit fishy about that whole system. What the answer is, or whether this is the best answer, I don't know, but I think it's a bad situation to have. In the private sector, if companies give too much money to their employees or too many benefits, they go broke. Problem solved. And the unions recognize that as well, so they can work together. But that's not true in the public sector. There's no profit motive.
Where are you from, sir?
I'm from Hudson.
Okay.
That's why I'm here.
Okay.
I don't really like the ideas there's people from all over the world coming into Wisconsin with this thing. I think Wisconsin people, fine. And of course that's your right. You can go anywhere you want to. But I can't see myself going to California to protest something. I'll stay here.
Look, he wants to
Some action behind
Listen,
you.
let me get a picture of you being...
There you go.
There you go. This is great.
Yes. Really is happening, but the union thing is affecting some of the Clean Water Acts, affecting saving farm land, healthcare. It's a big picture thing, and how it.
Where are you from?
I live in
River Falls.
And what are you doing here today?
I am represented by AFSCME, so I'm supporting the union because I'm a Wisconsin state employee.
What do you think of Governor Walker?
Not very much. matter. I wouldn't be here.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Recall Harrisburg! 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 I say Harrisburg! Harrisburg! Recall! 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 Harrisburg! Recall!
Where are you from?
River Falls.
Okay, and what do you think of Governor Walker?
Well, I think part of the problem is that it's affecting everyday people. And so I'm here to support my family, support my wife. So I'm here fighting for family rights.
Thank you.
Workers' rights are human rights. Recall Sheila! 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 This is what democracy looks like! Show me what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Show me what democracy looks like! This is what...
I don't want to hit you out.
Start to vote for what's best for their constituents instead of just. I don't know that this gal has voted outside the party line in the entire time that she's been in the Senate. And we need people to vote the way her community feels, and I don't know that that's happening. So
you're gonna lose your little name tag here. Ellsworth.
All right, where is that?
Show me what my husband. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
Hi, it's two-putt time. Oh.
Maya, you want to sit over here?
Thanks, I appreciate you guys giving me a chance to share a little bit. I said they've got so many mics on me, I feel like I'm going to tip over in a minute with all these microphones.
But I guess I want to share comments with a few other folks as well. And appreciate you giving us a few minutes to allow us to join here in Hudson. And it's good to be back. I said the last time I was here it was a little bit colder. We put a sign up. I got to see the sign on the way over coming up by the St. Croix, where for years it said that Wisconsin welcomes you, and then it said the name of the governor. And instead we changed the sign. Instead of putting my name up there, we really simply say open for business. And that's part of what I want to talk to you about today, because for us it's really been about changing the mindset here in Wisconsin to show that Wisconsin's open for business. In fact, not long after I was elected, we started talking about what we were going to do in the transition in November and December. Right away in January, instead of waiting around, I immediately got to work literally the first day of office, January 3rd, because I wanted to stand up and protect middle-class jobs and middle-class taxpayers. And it's interesting, about a month in, after we did all these things to get the economy going in this state, I had a reporter from the Associated Press come to my office in the Capitol, and he said, why are you moving so quick? We want to do a story about this. He ran across the country. They said, why are you acting so quickly on these job creation items? In most states, the governors are barely in office. The lawmakers haven't even found their way to their offices yet. Here you guys are, and you're already moving aggressively to change the business climate in the state of Wisconsin. I said, it's real simple. As I came across the state over the past year and a half before the election, when it was up here in St. Croix or Polk or Gwinnett County or Pepin or all over this part of the state of Wisconsin or anywhere else, I treated it like a job interview. My job interview was to be the CEO of the state of Wisconsin. Like any CEO or person wanting to be the CEO of a company, I said, we've got a crisis in the state. We've got an economic crisis and we've got a fiscal crisis. We need to tackle both of those to get the people of the state of Wisconsin working again. So I didn't wait a year or 6 months or even a month. We started on the very first day of office on January 3rd. Because to me, it's that critically important for us to get the state working. And the good news is it's been working. You know, we passed things that lowered the tax burden on job creators. We passed things that eased the regulatory burden on job creators, on the litigation burden. We made it easier in terms of those people who use health savings accounts as workers, as sole proprietors, as family farmers. We've even changed what we do in the Department of Commerce to create a new Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, to create an agency that's more about promoting jobs and promoting commerce than it is about regulating. We did all those things in the first 4 or 5 weeks in office. So we got to act on it right away. We sent a clear message. And the good news is, even in talking about it in November and December about what we were going to do and then doing it, we've already seen success. Last Wednesday, we announced numbers statewide, and for the first month of the year, the private sector created more than 10,000 new jobs in the state of Wisconsin. More than 10,000 new jobs. Much better than the national trend. Much better than nearly every other state across the country. On top of that, we saw our unemployment rate go down to 7.4%. That's well below the national average, but it's still not good enough. So we've got to chip away even further and get down to about half that so that we've got the people of the state working again. And we can do that, but it doesn't come through more government. It comes by getting government out of the way so employers can put more people to work like you're doing right here. It's about getting the government out of the way to allow the private sector to create the kind of jobs and to do the work that you do, the competitive work you do to get the job going. Now, along the way, we've had some success, and in fact, many of those bills, all but one of them, that we passed in that special session on jobs, had Democrat votes as well as Republican votes. We worked in a bipartisan way. And people say, well, how did that happen? Because it's real simple. A job's not a Republican job, it's not a Democrat job, it's a Wisconsin job. And to the extent that we can work together to get more people working in the state, that's a benefit for all of us. No matter what party, no matter whether you're a party or not, no matter what part of the state. And by the way, it's good to be back here where I know that there are people who live on the east side of the St. Croix, not just on the west side as well, because we understand that's a key part of the state of Wisconsin. And we like the folks on the other side of the the St. Croix River as well. But for us, that was one key element to show that Wisconsin was open for business, just like I say on the state sign. But another part to show that the state is working again is to make sure we take responsibility for our budget. To balance a budget that makes Wisconsin stable again. Stable again. That's how you get the state working. You know, for us, we got a lot of attention over the past month or so, but down in Madison about a month ago, I introduced a budget repair bill, a series of budget reforms that were about putting people back to work. That ultimately, when I signed into law on Friday, was about protecting middle-class jobs and middle-class taxpayers. So what do you mean by that? Well, for us, had we not done that, For the next 2 years, we face a $3.6 billion deficit. Had we not done that at the state and the local level, governments all across Wisconsin would have had to lay off anywhere from 10 to 12,000 government workers. Those are middle-class jobs. What I signed into law on Friday protects over 10,000 middle-class jobs here in the state of Wisconsin. We do it the same way by protecting middle-class taxpayers as well. You see, in states all across the country, they're talking, whether it's a Democrat governor or Republican governor, they're talking about cutting billions of dollars to balance their budget, and the cuts are largely coming in schools and local governments. Well, in those states, those areas have two ways to balance those cuts out. Either they lay off massive numbers of employees, which affects services, or they pass massive tax increases. It's happened time and time again. All of you who pay property taxes have seen it year after year after year. Every time government grows, you see higher property taxes. Well, these are tough times. These are tough times in the economy. A lot of people have made sacrifices to keep not only their own jobs, but to keep their co-workers working. And the last thing we need to do right now is to pile in even more in terms of higher property taxes. So instead of doing what other states have done, is pass the burden on locally and then expect them either to lay off people with fewer jobs or to pass massive tax increases, particularly on property taxes, that hurt all of us in the middle class. Instead, what we're doing and what I signed into law on Friday is something innovative, something truly progressive in the best sense of the word. It's giving a better alternative. And that alternative is to say for government employees like me, and I'll be paying this as well, we're asking a little bit more for pension and a little bit more for health care. Usually when I bring up what we're asking, most people go, hey, I wouldn't mind that. For our pension, we're asking government employees like me to pay 5.8%. The other part will be matched by the state or the local government. So half and half. A lot of folks are just happy to have a pension, a little in some sort of retirement fund. We're saying, okay, 5.8%, state picks up the other half. And when it comes to health care, we're asking, again, government workers like me to pay 12.8%. 12.8%. When I go around the state, people scratch their head and say, why is that not a good deal? I've got a younger brother, good guy by the name of David, a couple years younger than me. Now, when this first came up in debate, about a month ago, he said to me, he is a banquet manager at a hotel. He works part-time along the side as a bartender. His wife works at a department store nearby their home. They got two beautiful kids. They're a typical middle-class family in Wisconsin. David said to me, hey, Scott, I pay $800 a month for my health care and the little bit I can set aside for my 401k. I'd love to have a deal like what you're proposing. Not what you have, but what you're proposing. You guys know it. I mean, here you've got most people who work in companies like this are just happy to have an employer that's willing to share a part of your health care costs. That's what you've got here. You're paying a whole lot more than what we're even asking out of government employees. You understand why it's so vitally important to keep jobs, to keep things going. That's what we're asking. That's what those reforms are about. And in doing that, we save you from higher property taxes. We save you from higher taxes overall. And we ultimately get to save those thousands of jobs that otherwise would have to be laid off. That's incredibly important. That's what that reform was all about that I signed into law. Not what you hear about in Madison, not what you hear about in the national press. It was simply about saying all of us who work in the government should share in the sacrifice that people all across the state have been making for years. Sounds pretty reasonable. That's what this is all about. We can do that, and the best part about it is in doing that, we allow us to move this state forward, to put us on the right track. You look in Illinois a month and a half ago in Springfield down there, they decided to try and tackle their budget challenge by raising taxes on individuals and employers. And jobs started running out of the state. We get calls ringing off the hook in our Department of Commerce because companies were trying to get away from it. And the worst part about it for them is they didn't even fess up to their problem. They still have a pension system that's only half funded. In Wisconsin, we have a fully funded pension system, and we now have given local governments as well as the state the tools we need to make sure our government is stable, not just for the next year, not for the next 2-year budget, but for generations to come. You see, we made a commitment to the future so that our children don't face even more dire consequences than what we face today. Is that really what we've all been doing the last couple of years in our own families, in our own households, and dealing with the crunch that we felt, particularly since 2008? We've been making choices, and we've been hunkering down, paying the bills, making sure we didn't make it worse for our kids by handing on debt they couldn't handle. That's what we need to do in government. Now, as we look ahead to the future, what we did this past month sets the table for making sure we can make positive changes to get the middle class working again here in the state of Wisconsin and to protect middle class taxpayers. You see that $3.6 billion that we have a deficit that we inherited? You know what that would be if you divided it up by every man, woman, and child in the state? That'd be over $600. Over $600 for every man, woman, and child in the state of Wisconsin. When you add that up a bit over, that's more than $2,500 for a family of four like mine. That's $2,500 on top of the property taxes and the sales tax and the income tax we already paid. Does anybody think that you could afford another $2,500 if you've got your spouse and your kids, 2 other kids as part of your family, and obviously even more if you're a family larger than that? That's not realistic to expect of our hardworking middle-class taxpayers here in the state of Wisconsin. So our budget allows us to move forward. Our budget is based on protecting the middle class, helping push forward on jobs, creating a better economy, protecting our quality of life, ensuring good public safety, and ultimately making sure that we're not passing it on to taxpayers who are barely able to get by right now. I've seen too many homes up for foreclosure. I've seen too many people on the edge of bankruptcy. We need to make sure more of your money stays in your own pocket, protect your own family, and ultimately to help this economy get going again. And that's exactly what we do. This budget has truly, not just talk about no property taxes, we guarantee no property tax increase because we give the local governments the tools to handle with that. We ensure that there's no income or no sales tax increase, and there's no statewide fees out there that are replacing taxes by going up. No, we keep the money in your pocket, not in the pockets of the government. That's what it's all about. If we're going to get the economy going again, that's exactly what we need to move it forward. Now, as I look ahead here, and in a minute we're going to talk to the press for a second, then I'm going to walk around, get rid of all these mics so I don't tip over and take a tour with y'all and see the good work that you're doing here. Because we saw, Joe, a couple pictures about some of the stuff that you're doing for the railroad and for others out there, and I'm interested in seeing firsthand what you're doing to help our economy. Not only here in the St. Croix area, but all across the great state of Wisconsin. And I should acknowledge, I got jumped into this right off the start and forgot to acknowledge that the mayor of Hudson is here, and Dean Knudsen, who used to be the mayor, who's now your state representative, is here as well, and I appreciate their presence here. Thanks very much for being here, but I get pumped up about this. I get pumped up about this, but the last thing I just want to leave you with is simply this. You know, again, you saw all the news reports over the past month about all the protests and everything else in Madison. And you know, there were thousands and thousands of protesters outside of my office. And I said time and time again, they have every right to be here, just like anybody out front has every right to be here. But their voices should not choke out the voices of the millions of taxpayers in this state who want nothing more than the chance to have a good job, to have a good family, to have a good life, and ultimately want us to balance the budget without raising taxes. Their voices should not crowd out the voices of the middle class in the state, and that's exactly who we're fighting for. And we can move this state forward. You see, a generation ago, when I grew up in the small town of Delavan near the Illinois state line, back at that time we faced almost identical circumstances to what we face today. Back in 1986, about the time when you guys were moving in here, in '86, we had an economy that was just terribly tough for us. We had a tight budget and a tough economy. We had a lot of the same challenges we face today. But back at that time, a guy by the name of Tommy Thompson came along. He was elected as our new governor. And he faced a lot of the same challenges. In fact, he took on the status quo. He challenged the status quo in our state's capital. And the policies he helped put in place ultimately helped the people and employers of the state, not the government. The people and employers of the state create 258,000 new jobs by the end of his first term. Our goal is pretty simple compared to that. We want to create 250,000, 250,000 new jobs over the next 4 years. And we know in the end the best way to do that is to stand up and protect middle-class jobs and middle-class taxpayers by putting more of your money back in your own pockets instead of the pockets of the government. That's why we're here today. That's why we're ready to move forward. That's why I appreciate the chance to share with you. Like I said, I'm going to let these guys ask me a few questions as we go to the side here, but then I'm going to go around and see the good work you're doing, and I appreciate you giving me the time, and I appreciate even more the hard work you're doing to make sure not only this company, Empire Bucket, but also the economy overall in this state, in this region, continues to do well in the future. Because it's the hard work of our incredible workforce in this state. It's the decency of our owners, of our companies, many times family-owned, multi-generational families. And I know you got a couple generations working here as well. And it's just the wonderfulness of the people in this state that are going to make us grow. We know it when I talked about those 10,000 new jobs. The reality was we're outperforming in many ways many of the other states across the country. It's because of the dedication of our workforce, it's the commitment of our employers, it's the suppliers and resources we have in the state that are going to make us great again, and you're at the forefront of making it happen. So thanks very much for listening.
If the press wants to come up over here, just make a circle.
Where are you going over there?
Over here.
What's that? Oh, okay. Oh, perfect. Okay. Take a nice breakfast.
Is everybody clear?
Looks like it. Just about. Oh, well, we've got one less in the back.
Well, I think in the end, the more the taxpayers in this state, the middle class taxpayers, see the benefits of the reforms we passed, the better off they're going to be, the better off the taxpayers are going to be. And this is really not about a victory politically. It's about a victory for taxpayers who for years have been stuck paying for more and more and more of the growth of government. This gives state and local government the tools they need to get government under control.
Governor, are you saying, you keep saying we're going to save middle class jobs with these efforts. Are you guaranteeing that there will not be layoffs in the public sector? And what would be an acceptable number of layoffs if there are going to be layoffs?
Well, there will not be massive layoffs. The numbers we projected, had we not passed these reforms, were anywhere from 10 to 12,000 public sector employees, about 5 to 6,000 at the state level, another 5 to 6,000 at the local level. The exceptions to that would be in those districts and communities where they've rushed out to push through contracts before they were given these reforms. I think what the taxpayers are going to find, unfortunately, in those areas is by not taking advantage of those reforms, those communities ultimately may be faced with layoffs. But in areas that use the reforms that we passed, we gave them the tools to avoid layoffs. We gave them the flexibility. Not only give them the ability to capture pension contribution, again, much less than what guys at plants like this are paying all across the state of Wisconsin, but also we gave them the flexibility on health care to go beyond the 12.6 if that's what they need in order to avoid layoffs.
What about the level of state layoffs,
though? I
though?
talked to a fourth grade teacher outside. She's already been given notice that she's going to be laid off because of the things you put in place. What do you say to her middle class family?
Well, I'd say actually that's 100% wrong. She got layoff notices, as did teachers all across the state, precisely because of the cuts that were in the budget. The reforms that I signed into law on Friday actually are the very tools that will protect her from not being laid off. Those are the things that school districts, if they didn't have them, and schools all across this country are facing the same pressures because Republican and Democrat governors alike are ultimately cutting billions of dollars from schools and local governments. The difference is here in Wisconsin, we're giving our schools and our local governments the tools they need to balance that without having to do layoffs.
How do you create 250,000 jobs? She's going to be losing more than $600 a month because of some of these cuts. How do you survive with it? She's got 4 kids.
Well, again, the difference is if you look at places like this, ask these guys here, they make 45% of their health insurance payment. We're asking for 12.6%. People in the public sector are going to get by the same way people at companies like here and others do across the state of Wisconsin. These are middle-class workers. The fact is that we've all had to make sacrifices, but in the end, the sacrifices we're asking from public workers in this state are much less than, again, employees of companies like this and others across the state. And remember, they're actually much less not only than the private sector, but they're less than even the federal government. Federal employees, on average, pay 28% of their health insurance premium. And also another thing that's been lost in all the discussion, federal employees in this country, by and large, do not have collective bargaining for wages and for benefits. That's ultimately something that's been overlooked in this debate. Many states don't. And in those states like Indiana that did it most recently 6 years ago where they passed these reforms or signed these reforms into law, the government got better, it got more efficient, it got more accountable to the public, and good employees ended up being rewarded.
How important is you've introduced $1 billion bonding bill. How important is that to the state's recovery over here? And why is it helping in Wisconsin but not in Minnesota?
Well, in terms of the capital budget, which is still less than the capital budget that was passed 2 years ago, but it's important instead of building a whole lot of new structures, what we're doing is remodeling and updating, predominantly in the University of Wisconsin system. So places like UW-Stout, for example, has another number of projects in our plan. It's to make sure that our students have access in many cases, the buildings that were built in the 60s and 70s were in dire need of repair. They've overlooked those for years. We're able to do that, and by partnering with the private sector, in many cases, we're using private funds to match with public funds. We're multiplying the financial impact and the construction impact of the capital budget.
Republicans in Minnesota say it's not time to put more money on the credit card.
We haven't. We actually have done considerably less. If you look at our structural deficit, under my budget proposal, it's down by 90% from where the governor was at 2 years ago. It is a $2 billion reduction in structural deficit. It is lower than the last 8 budgets, Republican and Democrat alike. So we've led the nation in terms of being fiscally prudent.
How do you create 250,000 jobs? You talked about the news release about creating 250,000 jobs. A lot of economists say that the states really can't have that kind of impact on the economy like, federal and even, international factors. How do you create 250,000 jobs?
Well, you help the private sector. The best thing we can do is create a better business climate. We've had inquiries from St. Paul, Minnesota, other places, certainly from Chicago, Rockford, Springfield, and others after that state increased their tax on both businesses and individuals. We can create a better business climate. When Tommy Thompson came in 1986, Wisconsin had a horrible business economy. It was not a place to do business. He helped turn it around with the policies he put in place, and by the end of his first term, those policies helped factor into 258,000 new private sector jobs being created. We saw in our first month 10,100 new jobs in the private sector. We believe we can continue on that trend. The best thing we can do is create a better business climate in the state of Wisconsin. And it's not just about taxes, regulations, litigation, healthcare costs, all of which we've acted on in the first month and a half in office. It's also about stability. Investors, whether it's in the bond market or in terms of investments in companies, look at stability. Unlike other states who have pushed off their problems to the future, we've tackled our structural deficit, and we've tackled some of the spending issues, and ultimately we've given not only the state but local governments the tools they need to have a stable government, not just for the next year or for the next 2 years, but for generations to come.
Governor, you have open for business signs on the border now with Minnesota and Wisconsin. Do you fear at all that the negative publicity in Wisconsin might hurt your job creation efforts? People might be afraid to step into this volatile political atmosphere?
No, I don't at all. In fact, what I've found in the calls we received even in this past week, it's from potential employers coming in from other states who really look up to the fact that we've, not just me, but the legislature and others have been willing to tackle the tough task. Other states have failed to do that. That makes those states unstable in terms of their business climate and their government climate. Our actions, while it was intense for a month, I think will provide long-term dividends in terms of helping to turn the state around and providing the kind of long-term stability that small business owners and big government, big businesses as well, everywhere in between, businesses of all sides want stability. We provide that kind of long-term stability.
Governor, you guys overspent about $50 million in taxes.
The recall threat, how seriously do you take it?
Oh, I treat it absolutely seriously. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we saw around the Capitol for days. It started out with 10 to 15,000 people, predominantly from the state of Wisconsin. As the weeks escalated, we started to see the numbers swell as people came in from outside of the state of Wisconsin, from Illinois, from Nevada, from New Jersey, and definitely as the union bosses came in from Washington, D.C. We saw tons of money coming in. We see this become a national effort for those labor unions. We saw the President of the United States engage his political arm here in the state of Wisconsin. All those things we take seriously, but in the end, I believe this is a decision that taxpayers, middle-class taxpayers in the state of Wisconsin will ultimately be making a decision on. And I think every day that goes by, they realize all the scare tactics didn't happen, all the things that they said were not going to happen, even in terms of the employees, some of whom may be out protesting today. When they realize what's going to happen is all of us, myself included, are going to pay a little bit more for pension and health care, although well below what the average middle-class taxpayer pays, and that workers in this state will be given the right to choose whether or not they join a union and whether or not up to $1,000 of their union dues, that school teacher no longer will have to have $1,000 taken out of their paycheck. That's money they can use to help pay for health care and insurance and other things like that. And they realize all the other scare taxes won't happen because Wisconsin has the strongest civil service protections in the country. So the things that protect the workplace will continue to be there just like they were before. I think every day that goes by and people realize this was a much better approach than what other states are taking, I think that's a good thing for us.
But you chose to do that, Governor. They didn't. You imposed this on them.
You're right, because just like private sector, middle-class taxpayers all across the state, whether it was at Harley-Davidson, Mercury Marine, other companies across the board have made sacrifices. The employees there made sacrifices in turn to protect jobs. We're doing exactly the same thing. And we've got more than 150,000 emails The vast majority of them people being in favor of what we're doing, and many of them being from public employees who say in the end, I'd rather make these sacrifices than have some of my coworkers laid off. That's the big difference there. The public and union leaders from Washington want us to have layoffs because they want to keep their hands on the union dues money. That's what they ultimately care about versus us here in Wisconsin. We want to protect jobs in the middle class, and we want to protect middle class taxpayers, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Thanks. You guys owe Minnesota about $50 million in income tax.
Yeah. That was a part of the original deal because those 14 state senators fled. That was one component we couldn't pass. My hope is now that we've got the saving, we can move forward in the next week or two when the state senate and the state assembly come back. We can finish it off because I talked to Governor Dayton about that about a month and a half ago and said it would be in my budget repair bill, which it was.
Thanks.
Sure.
Perfect. So no check now.
No, it has to.
I can deliver it to him. I'll go back to the cap.
I'm sure Mark would appreciate that. No, that's the big deal. In fact, he told me originally, he said, well, I'll come out and support your bill if it's got in there. I said, you probably want to look at everything that's in there before you decide whether you're going to support it.
Did he say that?
Yeah. Well, he just was supportive of, the fact that we wanted to make that concern.
So he said he'd support your bill, and you said, well, I'd hold off on that?
Well, because he didn't know what else was in there, so.
Will there be negotiations with the state employees unions now that you have this? You have a new contract coming up
This is
soon.
KRE.
Will there be actual negotiations?
KARE.
Absolutely. The Department of Employee Relations, as they haven't done in the past, will do it again in the future.
Can you set a time when those discussions begin?
I believe the Greg Gratz, who's the head of the Department of Employee Relations, has already reached out to the unions.
We had Green Bay and Wausau. Green Bay, well, yeah, we're heading back to Lansing.
So they won't all come flying out.
That's pretty good.
There you go.
Thanks.
I can figure out which one's which. Thanks, guys.
Channel 11.
Oh, cool. All right.
Okay.
And then members of the press, they're just going to take a quick group photo with the employees of the company. Oh, you got,
Oh, there's Dan.
Like an 8 bunch of guys did. That's what we started.
Right here.
Now this is what I want to see here. This is the repair. So this is when you're fixing up. Okay,
Almost time to go home.
had been replaced. Okay, so this bottom half is worn out here. You want it to cool off, so yeah, sure. And then it gets replaced with points on the front. here. That's just part of the replacement. So you do all this and all that. How long does that take? Really? Wow. And you do it so far now. And so what do you have to do? You're looking for a certain level or a layer that you get out. Cider wall. Okay. We'll call up 3/4 inch wall. That's probably a 7.5. That's kind of show and tell, right? Yeah. How are you? Good. Thank you. How long have you been? 8 years. Yeah. Started when I was 20 years of age. Right off the bat. I saw a guy down here, well, another guy 20 years. And kind of like the rest of the way, 23.5 years. Yeah. Yeah, Jeff's taught me a lot of things over here. We've been together for a long time. Did you start out Walden? I started right off the level. So what this would be a piece of flat. This is for laser dye systems. It's called a stationary wide arm. This is the laser equipment. Yeah. We do the weld. This is a completed one. Okay, sure. This is the one that's only half done. And then this puts on the top. Yep. The sides of the bars get machined all down. I said you gotta slip that up. Yeah, this keeps it nice and square. All these rods. Chambers and all the rods. You gotta do weld all the way down, all the way over to the wall. It's all locked together. It's awesome. How long does that something like this take? Maybe 10, 11 hours to completely weld it and build it. Okay. If I'm doing a couple of years. Yeah. See, he's doing fitting. He's not going to go fitter. He can read the spring and take all the individual parts and put it together. Sure. And in this case, he's putting it together and then he's welding. You're welding it not all in one spot. You can't weld from one end to the other. You better weld sequence of different sequence. And then you jump around. Otherwise, you warp. Sure. These have to stay very flat. Sure. It's not going to go. It's still fun. Well, yeah, I was born to heat cooler there before you got here. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, you're welding all this up to this.
This is the base part. This is what? This is the base, right?
This is the column.
Stands vertical.
Yeah.
That one sits horizontal.
Yeah.
And then that one sits on that one.
Okay. It's a laser cutting system that we built for pneumatics up in Maple Grove, Minnesota. And we do all the machining on it. We do the finished paint job on it. This is bright blue, brighter than your shirt. Those are bright orange. And then really? That one over there, that other one is bright orange. I mean bright orange. Really? That's their company color. And we ship them up to them in pairs. Okay. And then they put them together. But these are all highly machined before they leave here and fully painted. That's awesome. There's a set. How many did you end up doing? Well, it's usually about a set a month. Okay. They've accelerated some now. I see signs of them ramping up. Better. Good for you. Good for them. Some positive things there. That's great. How long have you been with the company?
Going on 6.5 years.
Good stuff. He's doing bottom replacement again, bottom half. Bottom half of the side, the bottom from there all the way down, and we go through and check all the cracks. So what's this over here? That is some high wear plate. Okay. That's a high wear area where the sand and wears out. So it's a hard plate that we weld in there.
face! Show your 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 face! Both of them! Show your face! Both of them! Show your face! All right, I gotta open up the street.